early as 14, 15, they're already being betrothed to him.
Wanaletewa?
Wanaletewa to them.
He was going about his business.
So there is no falling in love. There's no such you always have to look at it from that context. In our father's time, it was an issue of provision and procreation.
What Texas wame order. Now another thing, Deborah, in your book, there was a lot of marriage, polygamy, divorce, which was consistent. It was almost consistent through the book.
But you know, Luos don't have divorce, so maybe I think she needs to come back and Luos don't have divorce.
Okay, let's call it separation. But then you also mentioned that 3 months sometimes was a long time for you. You would go to school, you come back for holidays. Nakuta serikali imepinduliwa. There's a new mother, you know. And then there was also a quote that I picked up. It says, "A man with one wife would have only one child in 2 years. A polygamist would get 5 children in 1 year without burdening one woman." Let me say this. I like the way.
Repeat that again.
Okay, let me repeat it.
For the people look in the balcony.
Case, yes,
it's very deep when you look at the mathematics. By the way,
in case people didn't get it.
No. You can have issues.
Write your book. Write your book. Yeah. So a man with one wife would have only one child in 2 years. A polygamist would get 5 children in 1 year without burdening one woman. I love the poetry in that. You know, I mean, I'm not going to reveal my stance on polygamy. That's for you to contact me later. But I love the poetry in that.
You're a Muslim.
I love the poetry in that. No, you see, with being a Muslim, we don't question what the Quran tells us. That's one thing, like we don't question. So that's a story for another day. But what the poetry I love in this, and you mentioned Islam. One interesting thing I find with Islam, it's very consistent with a lot of traditional African cultures in so many different things. That's why it's very easy to be an African and a Muslim. Polygamy, for example, I mean, of course, you know, it's one of those things that's shunned upon, but it's part of us. It's something that we can't turn away from.
West.
And what I like about the poetry in this particular, the way you said it, is that polygamy nowadays is always talked about in a negative light. So here where we're looking at it, at the fact that, you know, you could have multiple kids, but the burden, because most of the time, whatever way you want to look at it, most of the time the burden of the child goes to the woman. But now here you have a situation where all this burden is not going to one woman. So that's interesting. It doesn't matter, you know, like what my view or someone else's view is about polygamy, but just the poetry in that is very interesting. Your single dad had his first wife at age 17.
Actually, it
was it 16?
It was 16. First wife.
Yes.
And by the time he was moving to Nairobi, I think, how old was he?
2 wives. He was 18. He had 2 wives.
He had already had 2 wives by age 18.
Yes.
Drama.
And I don't know if I can say this, but part of the reason he had 2 wives is that he was a super striker, soccer player.
He was the Messi.
Wow.
He was the Messi of the village.
Can I say, one of the things, if I can just kind of put in context and then you can respond to that, guys, about the book. This is amazing. Is when you're writing a book, and I'm glad that you've done this, you kind of weave in the culture, right? And explain the context behind how these things happened, right? So can you give us, because there's somebody somewhere, and I'm saying this because I am younger than him. I grew up in a different culture than him, but in that era, maybe that was the norm.
That's the thing. You see, I'm a descriptive writer. And I'm also a historian in a way. And these things happened to me. I mean, so we always have to write African stories in African context and try to explain why things happened the way they happened in Africa. And even try to reason how they reasoned then. which is what he's talking about.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? So of course
ding, ding, ding.
We're in 2023. Polygamy is not something even I can accept. I can't accept it. There's a reason why polygamy happened then. We are talking the 40s, the 50s. You understand? In this setup,
70s.
80s.
Yeah, 70s, 80s, yeah.
Yes.
And
so
90s, yeah.
So
and
women,
2000s.
So here okay.
2010s.
Keep going. Ignore that.
So here we have women who are not empowered in any way.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, men are actually, like how it's put out in the Bible, they are providers. Okay?
Kabisa.
So we have men who are supposed to provide and women who are supposed to ensure the community, the generations continue. So for women, it is all about procreation. There's no love. There's not all these things that we're talking about, or I'm in love and whatnot. You are coming here to help procreate, to take care of austerity in this community. It's as simple as that. Issues as you romantically, there's no. If you are a man, you are born to provide for your family.
Absolutely.
You understand? So you see where they marry.
Yeah.
Now you're a man, I'm here to. How many can you take care of? How many women can you take care of? Because women are not empowered. They grow up, and to a certain time, you are ripe for procreation, you need to go. You understand? So you go to a man's house, you're there, you have nothing. So this man is supposed to provide for you, which is what, as you can see, was happening even with my father. He is still in school. Women, as early as 14, 15, they're already being betrothed to him.
Wanaletewa
he was going about his business.
So there is no falling in love. There's no such a, you always have to look at it from that context. In our father's time, it was an issue of provision and procreation, so that the communities do what? You know, austerity, because people, one thing you have to understand is the mortality rate was very high. In fact, the book starts with the death of a woman having a child.
Dramatic.
So of 5 children that you're going to have, there was no medical care and all this. So 5 children you're going to have, probably 3 are going to die. So you need as many women as possible trying their best to have as many children as possible. So we look at the survival rate of this, you know, of this. It was as serious
life was short, nasty and brutish.
Also life was quite short. You understand? So it's as bad as if you're a woman who has been brought here and you're not having children, and not you, even your sister. You do understand where they're coming from? Then they're looking at procreation. They're looking at the survival of this community, this clan, this name. You understand? So women are here for that. They're not like our generation, where it's not about procreation. We want to be loved. We want to love you. We want to have, you know, we
want to get down on bended knee at your
sunsets.
We also want to contribute to the
what sunsets?
What sunsets? Valentine's, flowers on bed.
She's talking.
Yeah, so now you have to understand polygamy from that aspect when you read this book. Why were Africans doing this? And what is the rationale behind it? Now, the women have already come. Now they're looking at the woman. If you are a man who only has one woman, just as I've said, in a year, when you get your woman pregnant, your wife pregnant, she's going to have 9 months of this pregnancy. Then you need another 5-6 months before she's ready to have another child. You understand? If the next year again you give her another child. So if you're to have 5 children in this family when you only have one wife, it means every year this woman has lived as a breeder. Every year she's pregnant. What does that do to a woman? So to make this woman rest, you're getting 5.
Apumzike.
You get? You're getting 5.
Unatafutua wasaidizi.
You understand? So this is the rationale.
We like
so because they tell you, no, you're burdening. Actually, sometimes even the reasoning was they're protecting the woman. They're no, you're burdening this woman. Get another woman to do this job. So you have 5 women all having 3 kids in a span of 3 years. You have 15 children running all around, and some of them will actually die. You understand? Most of us, okay, not our generation, maybe the generation before us, you'll find women are having even up to 10, 11 kids. When now polygamy started dying, you'd find our mothers. Even
my grandmother had 9.
Even look at that. If she was alone,
she was the only one.
Thank you.
She was the only one.
Thank you.
And my grandfather loved her to death.
Thank you so much.
But 9
Do you know your grandmother lived as a breeder because your grandfather chose to be with one woman? And of those 9, if I ask you, I'm sure she lost maybe 3.
No.
She didn't lose any.
Here.
So
my grandmother lost 2.
Yeah, they used to lose kids. I think the mortality, the birth mortality was really
normal,
high.
But I think at the time my grandfather was working for the for the colonial government.
So she had access.
He had access to healthcare.
My grandmother died at the foot of a tree. This tree called Otho, which, by the way, is alive today.
That tree.
There are Kenyans who actually go and take a photo on that tree today.
You know, that tree, you're gonna make it famous. Now people are gonna start going there.
We are going to Sori.
Tourism. Tell the local chief.
But if the book gets famous enough,
it will get famous.
The tree exists. These are real stories. So she died there, and that is the first issue to do with the burden of women having children. So basically, in a nutshell, that's what polygamy was all about: procreation, provision. End of story. Hakuna cha, you're my soulmate.
What I like about how you've told that story is because I think today we are surrounded by so much content that's coming so fast, and as Africans, we have to realize that this period for colonialism, there was very dramatic change, you know, like in how people were living and how things were being done. And we just like looking at people in that generation as people who are backward, people who were not empowered.
They had a reason for everything.
So there was a reason for everything. And I think the good thing with a book like this, it pauses and takes time and explain to people. And I say this because this culture of polygamy, it's still very common within our Muslim cultures.
Even with Christians, but there's a lot of hiding.
There's a lot of hiding.
There's so many men having children with women out there, but we're just not brave enough to say,
that's right.
I'm a polygamist.
So and that's the reason why I say, you know, like one of I always say the advantages that we have as Muslims, we don't question the Quran despite how modern the world has become. And that's the reason you're seeing there's a lot of things that I see within the Quran that are very consistent with African culture. A lot of those things that you've explained, like they're very consistent, you know, like a man being a provider. Even until today, you know, like within most Muslim cultures, even if your wife chooses to work.
I see that.
Even if your wife chooses to work, the man is the one who's still the provider, you know. So the wife can choose and decide, mimi nimempenda mume wangu sana, wacha nilipe bili ya maji, wacha nilipe bili ya stima.
I want to add some very important points. When my father loses his mother at birth, if now our grandfather was not a polygamist, what happens? So you see, there were women already ready to just raise him.
There you go. Adoption.
But our father, the moment it didn't work out, he had to raise us by himself. That's number one. Number two, when we had issues like a man who is not able to make his wife pregnant, polygamy sorted that very fast. You know.
Wife number two.
Sorry. No, the brothers.
No, the brothers.
Yeah, the brothers.
She talked about the man.
The man,
So
the man.
If the man had an issue, they've given you first wife, second wife, third wife, nothing is happening. Guys are like, okay.
But even kids used to do that.
Yeah, which is the nearest seed?
Yeah.
Which is the nearest seed to this guy?
Yeah.
The brother.
And this was us.
There's not gonna be issues.